It's race week, buddy.
It's race week. It's also a Monday.
It's also a Monday.
It's April 5th. The first podcast we've actually done this month. All the other ones are pre-recorded. This is the Crushing Iron podcast. Like we said, it's April 5th, 2021. This is podcast episode 469. 66, sorry. I mean, I'm on vacation for a week. We did 4 podcasts in 1 week to get ahead and a little bit out, but then we talked for quite a while before the podcast started. We usually, check back in the archives, see where we're at, but 466?
Yep.
That sounds good. It all sounds good. Hope you're having an awesome day. It is a absolutely stellar day here in Chattanooga. Sunshine, perfect weather. Hope you're having some of the same. But again, welcome aboard. This is the Crushing Iron podcast. We've gone in 465 of these. We come to you twice a week, traditionally Mondays and Thursdays, but always twice a week, as we have been for what I said about the last 5 years. Mike does a really awesome job of outlining all the podcasts that we do. We cover all things triathlon and a whole lot of life. We do swim, bike, run, detailed podcasts and talks about training philosophy and outline. We'll occasionally have on a guest. We'll do race recaps, which we'll be doing next week, and we do race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as both coaches, athletes, and best friends, just sit back, relax, have a good, open, honest discussion about what we're going through, what we know our athletes are going through. Sometimes even hop into our closed Facebook group. If you want to be part of that, you can search Crushing Iron Group on Facebook. Answer one simple question. We'll let you in. We have a lot of awesome people in there. And the wide varieties of athletic abilities and experience, from Ironman champions to people who have never participated in a triathlon ever, and everybody in between. So, and I imagine with more and more races coming up soon, we'll have a lot more questions in there. So feel free to ask those. It's a really awesome community. You shouldn't expect to get some of the same sarcasm and feedback you might get from other groups. So feel welcome to come on in there. And so oftentimes, as we did, I think 2 weeks ago, we'll do Q&A from there and just generally take the vibe and the pulse from that community to drive the podcast. But that's it. We just sit back, have an open, honest discussion about life. No sponsors, no ads, one agenda, and that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey. Do I sound refreshed and wired?
You do, man. I got to say, I'm happy to have you back. It's good to have you back. It's been a week. And
we went a week without each other.
Yeah. And I was actually, I don't want to say reflecting specifically on the fact that you were back, but
you missed me.
I missed you, man. I was writing.
Sit back and
I always write.
Emo
I don't always write, but I try to write every morning, freehand in a notebook. And it was sort of like this. I was kind of like, reflecting
about me.
I was gushing about you. But I was saying, like, it's kind of like I was trying to get to this place of grace and gratefulness and just about like everything we've done, because my mom was here this weekend and she was just so proud of everything. And I think we get, whether it's you and I or everybody that's caught up in this training process, we have a tendency to get steeped in it and kind of don't recognize it for what it is. And for her to kind of be here, and we had an athlete and his family drop by Friday, and they just loved it. We went out to dinner, and there's a lot of good stuff like that. So I've just been kind of trying to step back and like look at what you've done with your training, and look what we've done here, and it just feels good to be, a part of it. And I think we have to appreciate that more often. And we get caught in this training, and like X training in session didn't go great, but like 20 around it went awesome, and we get just sucked into that, man, things aren't going well. And I just like the idea of moving forward and feeling good. And it's like happy and healthy, that thing we talk about and what you just mentioned. And I think that's it, man. Let's get back to that and just be grateful about it. You got a race coming up. I'm stoked for you, and a lot of people are going to be doing it. And man, don't put the pressure on it. Just go out there and feel good about being able to do it. I mean, think about how many people, probably can't do it or whatever. And I don't know. I mean, I'm getting a little soft, man.
What the hell happened to you? I'm gone for a week.
It was great to have my mom here, and it was great. It was like
it was awesome.
It's just a grounding principle or something.
Yeah, your mom's one of my favorite people. She, like you, is stuck by me through thick and thin a long time ago, and it was awesome to see her. Okay, for the record, she doesn't look like she's aged a minute.
No,
I mean it's honestly unreal. I think she actually looks better than last time I saw her. which has been probably 2 years, something like that, maybe 2 or 3 years.
I don't remember.
But she walked in Saturday morning. We got in late Friday night. Like the longest I've stayed up in a long time. We got in like midnight. And I woke up the next day and came in and was doing her body. She came in. It was nice, like to see the smile on her face. You could tell how proud, you know, how moms are and dads, like they're always proud, right? You could be like, Mom, look at this, like, you know, pile of leaves. She's like, oh, you did a really great job. Like, I'm so proud of you. But it was nice to see the smile on her face and hear the things. And I'm with you. And I was actually thinking about that this morning, that I think coaching is a lot like this, and life is like this, that we appreciate and we love the great things that we're able to accomplish, the great workouts, the great success stories we have in life and in business and friendships and in training and in racing, whatever it is. But they stick for us for like a minute. You know, we really soak them in for like a minute, but it's the losses, right? And it's the things that we feel like we don't do good at, or the bad workouts, the bad races, or the bad experiences, that we tend to just kind of let those hang on to us. Like we give them a free ride, right? A free pass when we're doing all these things. And and the same thing goes with training. I loved what you said there. I was kind of on the same vibe this morning about just appreciation and looking back at how far everyone's come in the last few years and how far you and I have come. And it's sometimes we get so caught up in what we do every day. You know, I think it's a lot like, you know, when you see a person who's like, you know, trying to get in shape, or a person who's trying to lose weight, they rarely ever see, you know, how different they look after a period of time. But if you go a couple months without seeing them, you walk up and you're like, oh my God, like you look incredible. They're like, really? Because they see themselves every single day. And it's hard to notice those really small, you know, incremental gains or losses, however you want to look at it. And
super hard.
It is. And so if you kind of think back on, I think it's always good to reflect. And obviously like the hardships and the hard times and the failures, or the things you don't feel like you succeed at, those are what drive you to want to succeed. But yeah, it's sometimes I think we forget to kind of look back and see how far we've grown from just two guys, you know, me, you know, with a $15 Amazon headset that I still own, and I'll probably use next week, to, you know, where we are now in the hub and what we're doing with athletes coming in from, it's awesome. And I think training is a lot the same. Like, you know, the last 2 years, a lot of people have trained and stuck at it. And now they're starting to see things come to fruition. And it's like you forget how hard you've worked over the long period of time, because you kind of just get caught up in how you did last week, how you're going to do this week, and then what's going to be up for next week, right? And so you kind of, we all kind of live in like a 3-week, you know, period of time. How did last week go? Is this week going to be better? And then how am I going to do next week? And that's really it. Like we don't look farther. We don't look, you know, too far back. And it's I don't want to say it's all meaningless, but it all means a whole lot different than what we usually, in terms of like the amount of importance we put on things. And I mean, this is a race week, and I'm going to say this, and I'm 100% confident that I'm going to race on Sunday. I didn't feel that confident in November. I was like 70-30, but I'm 100% confident that I'm racing on Sunday, and that's an incredible feeling. I haven't raced in about 2.5 years. It had been 3 years in July that I've actually raced, which is a long period of time, but everybody is going to have gone a long period of time, for the most part, from racing in a triathlon or a 70.3 or a bigger event. And just kind of texting and going back and forth with some of the athletes, just kind of like, I had an athlete specifically this morning that was like, hey, you know, should I feel bad that I don't have like any A, B, and C goals for this race? You know, it's kind of been a hard year. And I'm like, yeah, join the club. Like, you know, like it's just, I pictured myself this weekend, as I was just kind of sitting by the pool, watching Hayden be happy doing anything and everything he was doing. And I was thinking about the race, and we mentioned this after the challenge. Maybe it's like looking at arguably the greatest triathlete on the planet who's ever lived, and Jan Frodeno, like how pumped and just excited like he was a kid to race. That's how I feel like I'm going to be, and I haven't been that way in a long time before a race. And it has nothing really to do with where I think my fitness is, or where I think I'm going to accomplish, or where I might rank against my competition. It's just like being able to be back in the race mentality with other people who were energized. And that's what the other athletes, she was like, I'm just excited to like see people and like be around everybody else and like be in that environment, no matter how it looks like. It's just exciting to do that and to feel. I'm not nervous, I wouldn't say. I think I'm antsy, But I think when I get there, I think I'll be nervous, and I haven't been nervous in a long time. Last time I was nervous for a race was when you and I did Wisconsin together, and Hayden was like 7 weeks old. I was nervous that day. But it's just kind of like riding a bike. But when it's been a long time since you've ridden a bike, you get kind of, it's like, you can use that because I've raced a ton, and it's kind of like, whatever, but it's exciting, and it feels refreshing. And there's this real true sense of optimism that's justified in the air. And there's a huge I'll be in Texas 70.3. And then I think next week is Florida 70.3. There's a lot coming, and it's an exciting time, and it's exciting for everybody. And I can feel kind of the true optimism around the community that's, and it feels great. It feels really, really good.
I wanted to just quickly explore what nervous to you means, because you know what I mean? It's like, it can be anything. I always talk about, I always feel that like nervous energy, excitement, stuff like that. And then the minute I land on the ground, wherever the race is, it kind of sort of settles down. It's sort of like this, you have this picture of unknown in your head about, like, I don't know, for whatever reason, you've been there and everything like that, but just to be around, it's sort of like, going somewhere out to eat or something, you kind of have a little anxiety about it until you actually see what's around and like, okay, I can feel safe here. There's not too much craziness going on.
Man, that's actually a really good question. I will admit I was, before I thought I was doing Texas 70.3 in November, I had 2 pre-race dreams, which I don't know that I've ever had. Not like pre-race as in like you're crushing the swim, like I forgot my shoes dreams. And I think in one of them I forgot my bike. I think that, which I was like, this isn't me, this is Mike Torelli. Like, why am I having these dreams? This is what Mike's supposed to be having. It's like, whoa, this isn't me.
Who's in my head? Mine always.
Yeah, and so, but for this one, I agree with you. Like, I'm more antsy. Like right now, like I did a lot of yard work yesterday, which is kind of like my race week nesting. Did the inaugural first cut of the grass, which kind of feels symbolic of like you're definitely racing. Kind of like the rites of spring kind of thing, and just getting everything ready. I think I've also forgotten how long of a list it is to pack for a triathlon. Like it was fun, like just doing run race, like, okay, shoes, hydration vest, go. Like, and I keep thinking of them like this and this and this, and I'm going to have like a race suitcase and a life suitcase to leave to go down there. I think nervous is just like to make sure I have everything in order, because it feels just kind of hectic, like to gather all your stuff. It's like you're looking up in the attic and dusting off your race belt and like, when was the last time I used this, and making sure things are going. And then, it's just been a long time. This is the longest I've ever gone since I did my very first triathlon in Hilton Head Island at Beach Bum in 2004. It's the longest I've ever gone without racing. And I think that has something to do with it, that I'm so far removed from doing one, plus not really having any. I mean, I have an idea. Like I said, I feel like I have a pretty good intuition about where I am fitness wise. But that kind of nervous. But I think when I get there, I think it'll go from nervous to calm. Like, it's here. It's about to happen. It's arriving. And now it's time to, instead of being nervous, it's a time to kind of like settle in, like get your bearings. And it's also, I think, more comfortable for me because I've done a race of this distance, and I've also been to this venue, right? So I said, last week I was kind of peeking in and out of the Texas 70.3 Facebook group, which I do with immense caution, because you never know what kind of rabbit hole. I don't comment. I just I'm a lurker. I'm a troller. I'm not a troller. I'm a lurker. I just kind of see if there's any like inside intel. What's the water temp, kind of thing. And I will say that I having been in this sport for such a long time, I'm still amazed at how many questions arise from before a race. And I have to say this as a coach and as a person who just, it's always nice to be prepared. Read the athlete guide. Read it, because 99% of your questions are answered inside the athlete guide. I read this one front to back, which is the first one I've done that in a long time, just because there are a lot of changes. Like,
it's good reading.
It's just really solid reading. Like, I usually just kind of swipe delete, like I'm just out of here. But there's just a lot going on. So if this was my first time at this distance and it was a totally foreign venue, I think I'd be much more nervous. But I can picture myself in the water because I've been there. I can picture myself on the bike course. I've been there. I can picture myself on the run course. I've been there. Like I did a short run yesterday. Ended up pulling the plug right after you guys left on Saturday. My legs felt good. I ran hard Friday morning, then drove and was in the car for 9 hours, extended traffic, didn't get a lot of sleep, definitely didn't eat enough. Had one more interval left on the bike, and I just thought, you know what? It's not going to do me any good. Just pull the plug and call it a day and rest up. Woke up yesterday and probably had one of the best feeling runs I've had maybe in my life, which I want to talk about that in later, because I will have to admit that I have dipped my toe into the Super Shoe toe box, and I will give that a review at some point later in the podcast. But went out and ran and felt so refreshed. But I was actually practicing like quick U-turns, because the Texas course is...
Oh, you had cones out?
I didn't have cones out, but like I was doing, like quick U-turns in like the road, because it was a Sunday morning on Easter, like literally no one was out. But the Texas 70.3 run course is 3 loops, and it's a lot of like, not like, gradual U-turns, but I'm talking like, just you're on a dime. Like you're
like walking through a labyrinth.
You're just really like, you're turning on a dime, and that takes away time. And so I wanted to make sure that my shoes had enough kind of lateral stability to get this. So I could picture where I was. So again, if I was going to a brand new place, then I think I'd be a lot more nervous, anxious, if you will. But I think nervous more, honestly, I think it's to also just being a part of it. I think being a part of one of the first race this year that's happened, and being able to race with, athletes that I coach, and watching them, get out there and rip it, and at the same time trying not to lose by too much to a couple of them who are in really awesome shape. I think that's nervous in a good way, as in like I'm really excited in anticipation of this event. Not like I'm nervous I'm not going to do well, or I'm nervous and my goggle's going to fall apart, or I'm going to get a flat tire. I'm just nervous, like excited nervous. Like, I can feel something exciting is about to happen. I'm really pumped to be a part of it.
Yeah, there's got to be something about being a coach and racing with athletes and stuff that gets to us a little bit, or being the podcast. I mean, like I've told you before, like when we did Wisconsin, there's like a 50, we have 30 people doing that race or something, and I was racing, and I don't know, you just want to, we sit here and talk about stuff all the time on the podcast, and, you want to do well, but we're human, and it's not like, we're going to go out and win the entire race. Just because we're coaching, it's like there's still something there, I think, and I feel that just generally, and but yeah, I think that there just it has to be a ball of excitement around the whole thing for you, and being able to go down there. And I wish I was going, but I'm not.
It's one of those where I think it's going to be tricky in a lot of ways. And I was, again, like to reference the text convo I was having earlier, it was just like, my AB goals is to have fun and rip it. Like, like I want to execute well, but I think that's a given. You want to be irresponsible as you race, and you want to go over, but I want to go into it with the feeling, not a feeling of I have all these expectations and pressure that I must realize, like, cause I still, anticipate racing Chattanooga 70.3. So I want this. I just want to have fun. I want to have fun. I want to rip it. And I want to get my goals, and the end result will be what it will be. It won't be because I have a time goal. It won't be because I have an A, B, and C goal. My number 1 goal is to have fun. My number 2 goal is to rip it, and my number 3 goal is to execute. Like, you could probably flip flop execute and rip it, but because it's when you rip it is what matters most. But the first one is just to have fun and go into it relaxed, because the last thing I want to do is put too much, and every athlete is to put so much pressure on yourself, for one event. Like, you can imagine, it hasn't been quite the time, but you think about Olympians that have to go 4 years without, with like your whole buildup is this, I'm training for the Olympics and, 4 years away. And then you finally get there. For some of them, their 4 years ends in 15 seconds, or a couple of minutes, like, and then it's over and it's done. And to have, that, mentality of this has to matter more because more time has transpired, and we've gone through all these things, and it's like you can put that pressure on yourself. But kind of going back to the training 3-week thing, like where I was 3 weeks ago, where I'm now, where I want to be in 3 weeks, it's if you can kind of shorten that window and kind of minimize the pressure that you put on yourselves, it really can allow you just to be like, all right, well, I had a pretty good week last week. Like, I think a lot of times we like to kind of dig up our obstacle archives and be like, but remember last February, like I had it rough, so I really got to do well. I'm like, yeah, but look at you now. Like, you're feeling good, you're feeling fresh. Like, don't take that baggage with you unless it's necessary. And I think we do that as humans. Like, we hold on to, is not everyone, but a lot of people hold on to their baggage or their obstacles or their hardships or their injuries or bad times. Like, we hold on to those and we give them a voice. We give them power by acknowledging them. And when the truth is like, they're gone. Like, they're no more. Like, and the only thing giving them power and a voice over you is the fact that you're still talking about them, still carrying them on. Like, yes, it's, we've all had hardships, and, most of them have been unrelated to, things like they're normally going to go through in life. So I think it's just really important to go into it and think, all right, well, yeah, last year was whatever, but how has the last few months been? Pretty awesome. Okay, then I should feel pretty awesome. Like, we don't have to take those really, difficult things with us. And I think people do that for a variety of reasons. One, because I think it either gives you kind of an extra motivating factor, like it puts more meaning into a race that I think should already have a lot of meaning for you. But then I think kind of gives us an out as humans, like, but it's been really hard. It's been, whichever way you want to slice it, you can make that into something positive. But I think the biggest thing is just to shed all that, right? And if you really want to race free, like we've mentioned this so many times on the podcast, is like the person that if I'm a competitor, right, or you're looking to go against your, alter self, and you walk up in the swim start line, you see a person, with, their headphones in and they're super zoned in and they're ready to go and they're not talking to anybody and they're jamming out to Metallica. And then you see the person next to him who just kind of like relaxed and smiling and just kind of loose and having fun. Like, that's the person I'm scared of. Yep. Is the person who's in a good headspace, who doesn't seem to have a care in the world. It's the person who looks like they have nothing to lose, right? That's the person you're afraid of. So if you want to compare it again to like your alter self, which version do you want to be? You want to be the, the uptight Tim who like walks in and it's like super stiff and nervous because I have all these expectations. I've been training for this for 2 years. I've got to do this. I've made all these sacrifices. I got here and, this is, or because that person, in my opinion, is much more apt to just make a mistake because they have so much tunnel vision on something or some expectation, or they're going to be much more willing to, participate in self-sabotage. One thing goes wrong and, there goes the race. That's it. It's just not my day, or even just give in. Like, it's an opportunity that I think we should all go into no matter when your first big race of the year is, and just think, thank God that I'm here, right? Thank God that I'm able to participate in this. Like you said, and feel very, very fortunate. People's physical health and mental health have been changed drastically in the last 2 years. And to be a person who's found a way physically to be at a start line at an event, to do something that is this demanding physically and also be there in a good enough mental and emotional headspace, be grateful for that, because that is something that's incredibly hard to come by in just general, but especially, like I said, in the last year. So that person is the person who's going to be set up for success, the person who's going to be smiling, the person who's going to be giving high fives, the person who's going to be, giving encouraging words and thanking the volunteers. Like that's what you want to be on race day, is racing with gratitude, attitude of gratitude, that kind of thing. So I think, there's a couple ways to go about it. And I can't help but think that is, the best way. Not the best way, but, because I don't want to say what's best for everyone, but a much more enjoyable experience, to get out there and think like, I don't have anything to lose. Like, I go out there and that's kind of how I feel about it. I have literally nothing to lose,
And you don't.
I don't.
I mean, I keep thinking about like, what's a really good way to, well, first of all, race week, right? Don't try to get faster this week, right? So just practice sinking into your spot or whatever and feel good and work on getting, recovered and feeling good getting at that race. And then when you get to that race, obviously there's going to be nerves around, like you look out at the water the day before and all that stuff. And I can't remember if they let you practice swim there or not. They might.
They don't let you practice swim in the race on the actual race course. You have to go to the ocean, or I think you can find a couple other opportunities.
Okay. But so like you're going to look at the water and have these things and be like trying to mentally, okay, my thing is always just get in the water and like feel the water on your face, relax and be like, wow, I'm in an open body of water and I'm swimming with a bunch of friends. And this is really cool, because what happens in a race, I mean, you're going to have to, there's going to be times, right? And the more you race, the more you kind of understand these times, and that's what's going to be weird for people, I think, is this idea of when you got to kind of suck it up, right? There's going to be times, but that time to suck it up is not right when you get in the water. The time, you need to really let that unfold. And I think this year more than ever, probably, because most triathletes' weakest sport is the swim. So if you go into that water and just get your head down and start barreling from get-go, might put yourself in a weird spot. But I really think you need to just kind of look around and soak in the environment for, 10 strokes or something and be like, wow, this is incredible. Look around and just feel where you're at. And then as you get further into the race, you may, about halfway through that swim or whatever it may be, you'll be like, all right, I feel a pretty good groove. Because how many times in training do you read in Training Peaks, boy, I felt terrible for the first 1,000 meters, or I felt terrible for the first 3 miles, and then my legs started opening up. That's going to happen again. But don't judge your race based on how you feel that first 1,000 meters of the swim, or that first 3 miles of the run, or the first 10 miles of the bike, because it takes a while, as we talk about all the time, the more accumulated fatigue you have, the more it takes kind of to loosen that engine up in that body and getting rolling. So I think, you may not, what I'm getting at is don't come out of the gate hammering because you're not ready for it. But let your body kind of open up to the idea to mile 15 on that bike is like, all right, now I can really settle in and I got a little more power right now. And I feel good about that. I'm not going to force that power. I'm not going to force that pace and those kind of things, because they're going to come to you. And I've raced enough to know that you get in spots where you're like, okay, I'm not the best right now, but I got to kind of mentally get over this hurdle for a mile or two. And then it just sort of comes back. So there's those situations, but again, it's not coming out of transition. It's not jumping in the water. Those are the times when you really, I just think, need to look around and be like, wow, I feel good. It feels cool to be out here. You're riding down the, Pacific or whatever that highway is there or whatever. And just, pay attention.
I'm not sure exactly.
Don't be looking around too much on the bike, but you know what I'm saying? Feel the water on your face and let that just sort of guide your day.
Yeah, I think a good phrase to use for athletes, and especially on the run, is to just kind of fall into pace. And just don't force it. Like fall into it. And what I mean by that is just you have no clue what you're going to feel like. No matter how many, if you're a brick person, no matter how many bricks you've ever done in your entire life, you have no idea how you're going to feel when you get off the bike. You don't know if it's going to be headwind on the way out, tailwind on the way back. Be vice versa. It could be crosswinds, could be hot, could be cold. You don't know how your body's going to respond, period. You just don't know. So the best thing is that you just let it just kind of see where your body is and then give it time to feel. Those first 2-3 miles are feelers, right? They are just as important as the last 2 or 3. And it all comes down to how you pace it. That was a discussion I was having with one of our athletes, Tom Stewart, who went out and did his very first, which I think the open marathon is honestly one of the hardest, if not the hardest, endurance event to pace, because it is such a hard effort for such a long time that you can totally screw it up in the first 4 miles. And he was saying, I think he ended up doing 7. It was in the low 7s. He ended up doing a 3:19. In his first 4 miles, his first 4 miles were in the 8s. And he negative split the marathon. He went out in a 1:41 and came back in a 1:37 or something like that. That's perfect pacing, but it's to have enough control to let your legs come around. Because even if you're tapered, right? And we talk about accumulative fatigue all the time and how at mass fitness, it's still going to take a while for your legs to warm up. At least it should. You shouldn't be so fresh. You feel in my opinion, you feel like you have pop right out of the gate. It's going to take a minute, right? It's also the first time you've probably done a 1.2 mile swim, a transition run and a 56 mile bike. If you're a normal person, it's been a minute, and it's going to feel different. It's, if you're wearing a wetsuit or not wearing a wetsuit, you get to make all these decisions, and you just have to figure out what you have for the day, and then just honor it. What you have for the day. Don't try to force it. See where your pace falls and just go with it. Because it could be faster than what you anticipate. It could be slower. still none of it really matters until like mile 7 or 8 of the half marathon at 7.3. Like you just don't know who you are and what you have. But it is one of the hardest things to do, especially with these events, is like you have to make decisions out of the gate, because like people always say like, well, flat courses are easy. They're easy to navigate. There's just, there's not much going on. Well, if it's going to be hot or it's going to be cold, you have a decision to make. If it's going to be borderline wetsuit or not, you have a decision to make. If it's going to be headwind on the way out or tailwind, it's going to be a decision to make. Like I'm already kind of grappling with, do I wear a wetsuit? Do I not wear a wetsuit? Like, because I'm a lifelong swimmer. I probably haven't swum as much as I probably should have before this, but I'm still a lifelong swimmer, and so I always feel better not in a wetsuit because I feel like I have better feel for the water. But I was looking at the forecasting, and man, if it's going to be up at like real feel 81, if I lose a minute in the swim, I lose a minute in the swim, minute and a half. Getting out of the water quick, not having my core temp go up, not sweating more than I probably should, and the swim and saving that for the rest of the race. I'd rather have that, but then it's like, and then you have on the bike, if you get a tailwind on the way out, do you swim harder than normal because you have a little bit of a tailwind? You can actually catch your breath and get your energy back with the tailwind. And then, obviously, you want to get more hydration, nutrition in on the tailwind part because it's easier to handle your bike and you can set up versus on the headwind part, it's easier to handle. You're not going to be able to get up as much, or you don't want to get up as much, to get your hydration. So fueling early is important. Do you, how much do you fuel if the run's going to be hot? How do you pace yourself? If it is going to be hot, do you take it extra easy coming out of the gate to make sure you get plenty of fluids in? Like there's a million decisions to make. And so to force yourself into a pace, or even told myself this, over the weekend as I was kind of going through like race stuff, is like, we get on the bike, I'm probably going to use heart rate as a gauge too, just as much as power, just to kind of see, because I don't want to go too high, because if it's going to be hot, then I want to save as much as I have for the run, because I know it's going to be warmer than even though I was in Florida for a week, it's going to be warmer than what I'm accustomed to here. There's just a lot of decisions. So to force yourself into a pace or a power, not knowing exactly how you feel and not being comfortable or confident to deviate from that is a recipe for disaster. Even if you're going to have a power number, which I'll give our athletes power numbers, I'll give myself a power number, but if I don't feel it, I don't feel it, and that's just something you have to have confidence in. Is like, do I want to destroy my whole day just because I don't feel like I have the bike legs, or do I want to set myself up for success to see if because just because you don't have the bike legs doesn't mean you're not going to have the run legs. Like that's a huge difference in mentality, and being patient is not deciding that you just don't have it today, instead of just saying, okay, I might just not have it right now. And the quickest way to make yourself not have it today is to force it when you feel like you don't have it.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's one of the things about racing that 99% of triathletes can't get a grip on, or at least have a solid grip on, because I do that too. I mean, it's so easy to force the issue on the bike because you know who you should be, but maybe you're not that person. But like sometimes you could be going, well, I might not feel like I am, but I am that person, so I have to make that happen. And we've talked about how some days I like to push up the legs and really like wake them up. So there's always that part of it too, which I think is something. But like you're saying, you can't force feed it too hard. But regardless, the bike is so, I mean, it's so interesting because like what you're saying about how your run legs can feel better than your bike legs, or some things like that can happen. But how many people literally, I mean, we can talk about this, you can blow your everything on the bike. I mean, that's like the, standard thing that we talk about in triathlon.
Mm-hmm.
Don't blow it out on the bike. And, but it's variance too, right? There's like, you can really blow it out, or you can sort of blow it out, or, you know what I mean? There's a range there too. So you just got to really be, attentive on that bike and really kind of understand what's going on and what might do us, because most people never get to a place, I feel like, where they can actually turn it up for that last part of the run. I mean, like I've only had that feeling like once, in all my racing, and it was the last 70.3 I did. So I feel like I was just starting to understand it. Now it's so far ago, I can't even remember what that was like, but
that's something I've actually thought about for this race, because I'm with you. I usually, because half marathon effort, like I'm usually at that by like mile 3 out of the gate. And then you just hold on for dear life. Like it honestly feels like an all out sustained effort for just a very long period of time. And it just seems like forever and forever and ever. And when I did the kind of virtual 70.3 when it was canceled in November, that was easily the best I've ever paced. I kind of think I came in the gate too slow, but it was still, I felt good. And I think that's going to be that is my one hang up with not wearing a watch on the run is that if it's going to be as warm as I think it's going to be, it's to keep my first 3 miles pretty relaxed. Not relaxed, but under control and confident with, being with getting to a place where, all right, you got 10 miles left. You can do whatever you need to for 10 miles, for an hour and 10 minutes or whatever, like an hour and 15, whatever. You can do it for 75 minutes, and find that and get yourself cooled down and get some extra hydration in myself, get some extra fuel in me. That's my biggest concern is coming out of the gate literally too hot, and not being cold. And then, because that's kind of where I was, honestly, when I did this race 3 years ago. I came out of the gate blazing and just kind of teetered on not bleeding time as I went. Like my splits got not a ton slower, but they got slower. And I don't want that. I want to be even, or I want to get a little bit better just from the confidence boost, of what it is. And because, honestly, like, even if you do pick it up and you're like, mile 8, I feel like I got a lot more to go. And then you decide to rip it. If you have that much left to rip, then you're going to rip it. And you're still not going to get to the finish line and think, I probably had more left, because you're still going to be shelled, because your expenditure it's not an infinite number. Like, you just kind of have a set number. It's when and how you use it. Or if you use it all early and now you're just kind of running on an empty tank with low calories, low fueling, and in a high core temp, and your legs are shot, versus getting to mile 6, 7, 8 and being like, I still got a lot left to go. Let's do it. And having that confidence, because what's more than also likely going to happen is that you're going to be passing people the entire time. And having that confidence booster with passing people as your energy is there and still there, even if it wanes a little bit, you're like, I'm still passing people. That alone, I think, gives you a little more energy than the other two options, which is seeing your average pace get slower, right? Slowly, and then also getting passed by people and think, oh yeah, I did it again. Came out a little bit too hot. So I think that's kind of where I am, is like, if I really want to work on a pacing and execution and get to a point to where I really can rip it, like I want to rip the entirety of the run, then I think I have to make sure that I don't come out too jazzed, because I think that's also my concern with being so excited to race, is I'm going to come out like a bat out of hell and then be like, this is not like, and then by mile 4 or 5 and I'm like, an internal furnace, be like, I came out too hot and here we go again, so seeing people and racing with teammates, like, I don't want to come out and be excitedly irresponsible. I want to come out excited, but under control. And so I think I'm going to have to probably wear my watch, and then I'll probably just turn it off and go with total time and just go after a certain point, because I'm not going to be a prisoner to it. But I think I do, in order to have my best race, I probably have to slow myself down the first 3 miles and be responsible if I really want to set myself up for success.
Yeah, and we've talked about that a lot, but like when you practice these running off the bike or these bricks, and how I always look at them as opportunities to practice that, to slow down, because when you get off a long ride and you're going, especially at a race, you're going, your legs are cooking and your legs are warmed up, and so then you get off, and the next thing you know, that high cadence, and you're looking down at your watch, like, whoa, this is like way too fast. So I do think that that's a good reason to keep an eye on the watch out of the gate, is to keep you slower, because it is very difficult to slow down. And it's one of those things where your legs are warmed up, but your run legs aren't warmed up, right? So you have to remember that. And there's nothing, I just believe there's nothing better than a sufficient warm up, when you get your body in check and you're like, okay, everything is flowing in the right places. And then all of a sudden you can slowly inch that up. And it's like, it's such a great feeling, first of all, when you kind of come out under control, and the next thing you know, like you're saying, you're at mile 6, 7 or whatever, and you're starting to pass people, and you're like, man, I feel kind of good. Is this weird? What? and believe it. You know what I mean? You have then you have to flip that believable switch. Like you have to believe in yourself. Like, can I keep this? I think I can, but just let go. You know, at some point towards the end of that run, you gotta just sort of let go and trust the universe, man.
And I think it's important to go back and sift through because no matter how race day plays out, you've already been through it in training. You've either had days where you came out of the gate thinking you were going to feel like crap and you felt like Superman. And you're like, I don't know how I ran that fast that day, but you just went with it and did it, right? Mm-hmm. You've had days where you woke up feeling like, I'm going to crush this run. And you end up crawling your way back home because it felt like crap. And then you've had other days where, you thought it was going to feel like crap, and it did. And then the other days where you started feeling like crap and you ended up feeling incredible. We've had all these experiences. So I think it's really important as an athlete to go back and think through, okay, no matter how I feel on race day, I've already kind of internally and from experience triage how I'm going to deal with it, what I should do, and I've been successful at it. So that means I should do the exact same thing I did on race day. I can still do it. It doesn't mean the day is over. It doesn't mean the day is done. You take and you do the best with the cards you have that day, and you play them as best as you possibly can. It's like you don't get to. That's the thing about race day is like, and I think how you approach it is like you're dealt. I think it's like 5-card stud. You get 5 cards. That's it. Like you're not getting any new cards like on training. You get to retry the next day. It's like you get what you get. You might be dealt a great hand that day with the best luck ever and the best conditions, or you might be dealt a crap hand, and you just gotta kind of bluff your way to the end and see what happens. But no matter what, you can still play the best hand that you've been dealt and that you have for the day. And for the most part, that just goes down to decision making. It goes down to not making irresponsible mistakes. It means, swimming smart and being prepared, biking smart, and then, running. And like you said, if it feels good and it looks good, then it is good. And just go with it. Because like there have been times where I thought, man, like I feel like crap, and look down, I'm like, oh, I am cruising. Like this is a good day. And then I just kind of I just kind of disregard my watch and turn it to I turn it like time of day or something. And I just kind of go with it because your body, we've all seen it. Our body is an amazing, incredible thing, but also a frustrating thing is you can have an incredible day or a bad day, but no matter what, you just got to do the best for it because execution is what you need the most repetition of in order to execute. Because even if you have a great day, because what you want is to practice executing the perfect race with the cards you've been dealt. Because one day you're going to be dealt the perfect hand, but you can totally piss that away with poor execution. You can totally ruin the day you have perfectly by going out and swimming way over your normal speed and effort, and then by way over biking, and you could have had the best run of your life. But you didn't because you overbiked, because you were irresponsible and you didn't execute well. Like it all comes. So practice execution because that way, when that day comes, you'll be prepared to execute it to the best of your ability to give you the best shot of really seeing what your true best performance is. And I mean, that's also the hard part of it is just like sticking to a plan and executing it or deviating from it and accepting that. Like I did that at Chattanooga 3 years ago. I came out of the gate. I had a race well at this same race, Texas, the month before. Had a bit of time off, went to Disney, did a few other things, and then swam pretty well, I thought, got out of the water. And the first, 20 miles of the bike, I felt horrible. Like I had those thoughts of, well, this is my day. But I kept thinking, just ride a little bit lower than your goal. Ride about 10 or 15 watts lower and just kind of see what happens. Right? You don't want to ruin the day because you can still pick and choose things to execute and do well. Even if you're not feeling good, execution is still a matter of adapting as well. It's not sticking and adhering to a plan and with total disregard for how your body's feeling or how the wind is, how the temperature is, how things are going around you. And then I ended up on the return trip feeling incredible. Like I was like, I hadn't even biked 25 miles. Like I felt incredible. Ended up having a pretty decent day. So that's the other thing about executing isn't always about just executing the plan. It's about being flexible with understanding your body and not being, coach told me to hold 180 watts today. I will hold 180, even if I think I feel like crap, even if I think my legs won't have it today. I'm going to do it. Well, then you're doing it to your own demise. Like your coach isn't going to be like, oh, well, thank goodness that you listen to me. No, your coach should say, thank you for listening to your body, right, in your mind. Or you could come out of the gate and the first 30 miles you're at 180 and then you're like, but baby, I feel good. And you're like, all right, let me up it a little bit and see what I got. Like we always give that green light, first 40 miles, Stick close to the plan. But after that, I can't be in your head. I can't be in your body. If you feel it, go for it. Like, you know it better than I do. Or at the same point, if you don't feel it, then don't feel it. Always ask yourself, is upping my watts by 5 or 10 or your heart rate or your effort, this small percentage over the next like 45 minutes, is this gonna be a good thing for the end part of my race, or is it gonna be a bad thing? Like, always put it on that scale of like, is the decision I'm making now going to help or hurt the last 6 miles, 3 miles of my run? Is it going to be a wash? Is it going to destroy it? Is it going to set me up for success? Whatever it is, always ask. It's definitely a game of mind. You know, it's not checkers. It's definitely more like chess. You know, this move leads to the next move, leads to the next move, leads to the next move. You just don't want to, get to the 30 miles of the bike and think, all right, I've gone through all my moves. This is all I have for the rest of the day, because that's going to make a really, really long day. And we only have a specific amount of, I think, just straight up mental and emotional energy to hold us for no matter how much grit and determination we have. Like, at some point your body's gonna be like, all right, dude, I'm done. Like, I got nothing left. So you got to be smart with it and think the entire time and be in the moment and trust yourself.
Yeah, I like what you said about that. Your first 20 miles didn't feel right, and then it turned around. And for me, I think people probably do this, right? Where we all have a library of training workouts. And I always try to like file a few of those up front to remind me how I felt and translate that to how I feel on a particular race day, right? Where, remember this day when this happened? Well, maybe this will happen again. Or the idea of that great run that you had, could have happened, 3 months ago, but you're out there on a Sunday afternoon, you're like, wow, I'm really cruising. This feels amazing. Or that swim where you struggled most of the swim, but then you cooled down the last 1,000 or something like that. And you're like, man, that was my fastest pace the whole day. And it's all about flow to me. It's about allowing yourself to flow through into that state that you had when you're at your best. And sometimes, checking your watch all the time, that becomes a decision-making process, and it's an energy sap. You have to, I have to pick up the pace 10 seconds per mile right now. But just, that kind of stuff. I mean, I'd be curious to talk to a mathematician that is a triathlete, because you know what I mean? Like how you're trying to go, if I do this, if I do that, carry the 3 minus the 4, then that algorithm of like, how is that?
The clock right?
Yeah, all that
the
stuff.
5K. You don't ask it until the 5K.
Okay.
You don't ask what your total time is going to be until the last 5K left, because that's easy math.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only time I ever get into the, all right, am I going to get in under this time or around this time? Like, what can I do for the last first 5K? And is it reasonable? Because then you're talking about, less than 30 minutes. You're like, I can do that math easy. It's like, I don't have that much left.
I know back in the day, I do remember Kevin, we used to, the Fab Five back in the day, he's a mathematician. He did his first Louisville, and I remember him talking about how some guy came up to him. They were both just struggling. It was that terrible heat day at Louisville, one of the hot races. And they had, I don't know, the whole second loop left, and he had X amount of time to get finished before the cutoff. Mm-hmm. And he was talking to this guy going, no, trust me, if we walk for 20 minutes or whatever, like he had a whole formula figured out for that last 13 miles. Yeah. And the guy was like, I don't know, man, we're getting tight. And he goes, trust me. If we just do this and run at this pace and walk for 5 minutes here and there, whatever, and we can do it. But like those kind of things are really hard to kind of put together while you're racing. But
you didn't get out of the moment, but just don't do that until you get to the 5K. Leave it to the, at least for me, because like I need the easy math. Leave it to the 5K to do that kind of stuff. Just get out there and because there's a lot of us. You're racing all over. You got Texas this week, Florida next week. Chattanooga's coming up. There's just a lot going on. It's exciting to see. It's fun to be a part of, and the more you race, the better your next one will be, because you'll have more practice. You'll be able to dust things off and knock the rust off and get more excitement. And then it will be like riding a bike. But right now it's kind of like, you're kind of, if it's like riding your tri bike for the first time with clip-on pedals, that's what it's like riding a bike right now. So you got that wee wobble going on. You're like, I hope I don't crash in front of somebody. Hopefully I can unclip on time. And if you don't, you just do that slow motion fall over. I will, before we wrap it up, I'll give my quick recap and review of my first ever, super shoe purchase. You know, Nike has their like a Vaporfly 4% Next super shoes that they're carbon plates. Basically, every single person who races and like breaks or records uses these Nikes. You all know that I'm not purchasing Nikes. So like, no matter what, even if they gave you 10 minutes, still not buying them. Like, dude, once they're on my deep list. Like, if I have I have a list where you just don't get off of. And Nikes, that's my deep list. And Nikes on my. I will never ever sacrifice that list. So I bought. I've been running Saucony Freedoms. That's been my training shoe, and I got their Endorphin Pros and put those on. They're also black, which is like, I mean, perfect for me. I ran in them on Sunday. They're supposed to be like just race shoes. Like, you don't train them. They're just race shoes. They're money.
Are they?
They're money. I'm not going to say how much faster I felt in them, but they're money. I didn't quite feel the carbon spring, the carbon plate, like springiness that I think Nike's supposed to have. The Saucony Endorphins, I guess the Pro is more of like it helps you roll forward. Like, it helps you like roll forward quicker. Like, can't get it to your foot strike quicker. They're definitely lighter, but they were super comfortable. Like the one review I read on them, which is kind of the reason I went with them over another one, over Hoka's. That's because I guess they have more lateral support for when your form starts to fatigue, and plus with as many freaking U-turns and corners they got in Galveston, I was like, this is a much better decision. But I ran with them. I don't know if it was just like, race week legs or the absolutely stunning weather we had yesterday morning, which was like no humidity and 40. Whatever it was, I'll take it because it felt incredible.
Remember that.
Yeah.
That's your training run.
That's one I got to remember. But I will say they were super comfortable. So
you are fast.
I give it.
You are strong.
That's what they said to me. Every time they had like a little microphone that's like, you are fast, you are strong, you are worthy, you are important. No, but they 5 stars. 5 stars for my only 4-mile training run in them that I did yesterday. But I'll give a full review on those, how they hold up after 13 miles. But I legit feel like I could have ran a marathon in them. That they felt that supportive, yet fast. 5 stars. Saucony Pro.
But they have Hoka version?
They do have a Hoka version. They have like the Hoka Carbon X something, whatever. But it's kind of crazy. And I've heard from people the athletes we have that wear the Nikes, that they're like, it really is kind of insane how much faster you get them. And the science backs it up that, in field testing that they are that much faster. Now, you don't train in them, right? Because then you're just kind of defeating the purpose of being faster on race day. You only race in them, but it was pretty crazy. I'll have a full on review of those after to see how they hold up with the half marathon. Because if I don't PR, I'm blaming it on the shoes.
Yeah, do it.
No, I'll see how they go. I'll see how they do. We'll be back again on Thursday.
You need some excuses lined up, man.
Shit, I'm not doing the excuse thing. Listen, my only excuse is going to be that I didn't train well enough. I didn't swim enough leading up to this race. All the excuses are on me.
You'll be wearing a wetsuit.
You think?
I think so.
We'll see how the morning temp is. If the ambient temp is below 63, I'll wear a wetsuit.
Okay.
If it's over,
so it'll be okay.
I'm more on an ambient temp guy, not a water temp.
What if it's wavy?
A water temp. I don't care.
That doesn't matter to you.
I mean, the dirtier the better. I hope the swim is a disaster because I'm totally fine with the swim being absolute like total chop, windy. Like, I want it to be as hard as possible because that'll help out my lack of swim training and then I'll be able to complement that with some of my extensive experience in open water and hopefully bridge the gap to where I shouldn't be fitness wise. That's it. We'll be back Thursday. Appreciate you as always. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate your time. Hop over to our website, C26Triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. We also have our ongoing club membership. It's under the coaching tab. Scroll down 3, click on that, learn more about it. Mike's in charge. You can also click on our coaches tab to learn about our roster of coaches that we have. We're now 1, 2, 3, 5 deep. Scroll through those. If you have any comments, questions about anything at all, you can reach out to Mike. He's at crushingiron@gmail.com. If you have any for me, I'm at C26coach@gmail.com.
Yeah. And you asked me how coaching is going, and it's going really well. I've been building a nice group of athletes now, and we're having a great time, and everybody's doing awesome and real consistent, and it's just been a fun time. And we got some people racing this weekend, and I'm excited about that. So hit me up, crushingiron@gmail.com if you have questions about coaching. Would love to talk to you. And I guess that's it, buddy. Let's wrap it. All right, man. See you later.